Overthinking feels like intelligence, but most of the time, it is fear disguised as thought. The mind keeps spinning, not because it is solving life, but because it is terrified of uncertainty. And the more it tries to predict everything, the less peace it has. If your thoughts never stop, this is not a sign that you need to think more. It may be a sign that you need to think differently. Stoicism teaches that peace does not come from controlling every possibility. It comes from learning what deserves your attention and what does not. Many people live with a mind that is always busy, always preparing, always reviewing, always worrying. They replay words, analyze silence, predict rejection, imagine future pain, and call it being careful. But a restless mind is not always a wise mind. Often, it is an untrained mind. In this video, we will explore 7 Stoic rules that can help you stop overthinking, calm your inner noise, and return to clarity. These rules are not about becoming passive or careless. They are about becoming mentally disciplined. Because the strongest mind is not the one that thinks the most. It is the one that knows when to stop. The first Stoic rule is simple. If you cannot act on it, do not keep feeding it. A large part of overthinking comes from mentally chewing on things that lead nowhere. What if they misunderstood me? What if it goes wrong tomorrow? What if they stop caring? What if I made the wrong choice? What if something bad happens later? The problem is not that these thoughts appear. The problem is that you keep giving them your energy even when no action is possible. Stoicism teaches that thought should serve action, not replace it. If a thought leads to a useful step, take the step. If it leads nowhere, it becomes mental pollution. Ask yourself, what can I actually do right now? If the answer is nothing, then your task is not more thinking. Your task is release. A disciplined mind does not follow every thought. It tests whether the thought deserves to stay. Overthinking often begins where certainty ends. Someone becomes distant, and you start building stories. They reply late, and you assume the worst. Their tone changes, and your mind creates 10 explanations before reality has revealed even one. Stoicism reminds us that much of our suffering comes not from facts, but from interpretation. You do not know everything that others think. You do not know every reason for their behavior. And yet, the anxious mind rushes in to fill the silence. This is how you create pain from assumption. Do not treat uncertainty as evidence. Do not confuse silence with rejection. Do not let imagination become your authority. The Stoic path is to wait for what is true, instead of torturing yourself with what is possible. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can say is, I do not know, and I do not need to invent an answer right now. That sentence alone can save you hours of unnecessary suffering. Many people believe that worrying prepares them. They think that if they mentally rehearse every bad outcome, they will feel more in control. But this usually does not make you stronger. It makes you exhausted. The anxious mind keeps showing itself dark images of the future, and then wonders why it cannot relax. Stoicism does not deny that difficulties may come, but it rejects the habit of living inside imagined disaster before it arrives. There is wisdom in preparation, but there is poison in obsession. Preparation says, if difficulty comes, I will meet it. Overthinking says, let me suffer now just in case suffering arrives later. One builds resilience. The other destroys peace. You do not become safer by living through the same future pain 100 times in your head. You only become more tired. The Stoic response is calm readiness, not constant mental panic. This is one of the most powerful Stoic disciplines. Learn to separate what is happening from what you are imagining. A fact is simple. They have not replied yet. The meeting is tomorrow. The result is still unknown. You made a mistake. Someone seemed cold. Fear then builds a second story on top of that. They are ignoring me. Tomorrow will be a disaster. Everything will go wrong. This mistake proves I am not enough. They no longer respect me. Now your suffering is no longer coming from reality. It is coming from the story your fear created. This is why overthinking feels so convincing. It speaks in the voice of logic, but it is often powered by emotion. The Stoics teach us to return to the bare truth. What do I know for certain? What am I adding? What is fact? What is fear? The more clearly you learn to draw that line, the less power anxious thinking has over you. Clarity is not loud, it is precise. Overthinking grows in minds that demand absolute certainty from life. But life does not offer that. You will not always know how people feel. You will not always know whether a choice is perfect. You will not always know what is coming next. You will not always get reassurance when you want it. And yet, many people torture themselves trying to eliminate every unknown before they move forward. This is impossible. Stoicism teaches maturity through acceptance of uncertainty. You act with reason. You choose with care. You prepare what you can. And then you accept that some part of life will remain unwritten. The need for certainty is often just the fear of discomfort. But growth requires discomfort. Courage requires uncertainty. Peace requires accepting that not everything will be clear before you take the next step. You do not need perfect certainty. You need enough clarity to act with integrity. That is enough. The overthinking mind often confuses movement in thought with movement in life. It says, "I'm working on it," but nothing changes. It analyzes, compares, questions, replays, and circles back again. Meanwhile, no action is taken. Stoicism values action rooted in reason. A small, calm action is usually more powerful than 1 hour of anxious analysis. If you need to speak, speak. If you need to rest, rest. If you need to prepare, prepare. If you need to leave, leave. If you need more information, ask once clearly. But do not live forever in mental rehearsal. Thought is useful when it leads somewhere. When it becomes endless delay, it turns into self-imprisonment. Your life changes when you stop asking the same question 20 times and begin taking one honest step. Action interrupts mental fog. Perhaps the deepest Stoic rule of all is this: not every thought deserves your belief. Many people suffer because they assume that every thought that enters the mind deserves attention. But the mind produces noise. It produces fear. It produces memory, doubt, fantasy, insecurity, and contradiction. Wisdom is not the absence of thought. It is the ability to choose which thoughts you feed. When a thought appears, ask, is this useful? Is this true? Is this actionable? Or is this just fear demanding my attention? You do not need to argue with every thought. You do not need to obey every feeling. You do not need to chase every mental alarm. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let a thought pass without giving it a home. This is how inner quiet begins, not by forcing the mind to be empty, but by refusing to become loyal to its every disturbance. Overthinking promises protection, but often it steals the very peace it claims to defend. The Stoic path is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming governed by reason instead of dragged around by fear. So remember these 7 rules. Only think about what leads to action. Do not read minds. Do not rehearse disaster. Separate facts from fear. Stop demanding certainty. Take small action. And do not believe every thought. A calmer life begins when you stop treating every mental noise as truth. Because peace does not belong to the person who thinks the most. It belongs to the person who knows what to ignore. Train your mind, protect your peace, and stop overthinking what was never meant to rule you.